and let's get going. So Nikhil's here, Josh is here, Tanuj is here. I think we finally this week maybe have hit our stride on Layer5 NG, which is, I got to tell you, pretty exciting for me. I was pretty exciting when we built Tanuj had first built the Appian theme, but now we're like getting into it. Now we're getting into plugins. We're getting into site map, kind of layout and structure. Tanuj is preparing us for migration with, separating out CSS, etc. Last time we met, so by the way, Josh, thanks for coming today. Very nice to have you on. Josh, I don't know if we've gotten a chance to talk before. I don't. Yeah, no, I guess you did. You introduced on the community call on Friday. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, then be quiet. You've been talking way too much. Let's just. No, but it's great to have you on this call, though. This is good. I'm still kind of got my eye on you because there's some association between you and Tanuj. So where there's one bad apple, there's probably another one. So we're gonna be watching out. And by the way, where there's a little bit of sarcasm, there's a lot of sarcasm. So I'm just kidding. But yeah, so Josh, good to have you on the call, and same for Nikhil. Dhruv is here with us as well, and I was just thinking, there's a reason why this call is not titled Layer5 Web Properties or whatever. I say that because we do have we have meshery.io, the documentation for meshery, so docs.meshery.io, layer5.io, those three, and we're creating this new one. There's actually a fifth one to create as well for service mesh performance specification. But the reason that we don't call this call sort of Layer5 sites is because we're really trying to get this one up and going. So really get a lot of focus here. I think since I called it out, it's probably worth just a quick note that that there's a different, there's actually a new site needed. And we won't talk about it here other than just extremely briefly to mention that it's a thing. And thus far, I think Muskin Bansal, and maybe Shriti Chandra are thinking about, and maybe Nikhil actually are thinking about creating a very, Nikhil, do you want to talk about it actually, this site?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we haven't started doing anything yet. It's just a plan which we are going on that I suggested Shriti and Muskan to decide on a template which you can use so that our works get reduced a lot. Means developing the coding it from the beginning will create a hefty task. So if we decide on a template which will suit our needs, then we can simply add contents that we want in it and make it ready much earlier.
Awesome, good. So just quick recap for Ishita and Dhruv and Tanuj and Josh, I guess, is that we're going to talk about Layer5 NG, but just a quick side note that there's a new static site, probably just a quick Jekyll single page site that that just describes this initiative, because this initiative, this performance specification, is likely to, it has all the signs of kind of growing into its own thing. And maybe it's really interesting because the amount of lines of code and things are so small here, but it's really interesting that this one is almost better suited or more obvious to people that it should go into the CNCF as versus Meshery. I think that's apparent to a lot of people, and that's still the plan, but this one even more so. So if that's the case, hey, we should probably have a small site that describes it a little bit better, because specifications are abstract. And I suspect if any of you have looked at this, other than this little animation, and even after this animation, you're still sort of wondering what this is exactly. And so, yeah, a site will help explain it. So Layer5 NG, some good stuff to be able to review I think, yeah, actually, but basically everyone actually, wow, including me. This is amazing. Everyone did some of their action items. So Ishita, maybe, I don't know if we want to start with the site migration analysis that you had created, and maybe
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Great. Okay, so I still need to see how other companies do the site migration and what's the best way to put it together, and even, document wise as well. But this is just a few things that I thought of when I realized that, okay, we have to change the look and feel of the website. The first thing is the current bottlenecks, which I feel are prevalent on the current site, which is first on with a marketing perspective, like a tagline. Um, also, I think for someone who's not so much into tech, even then there should be something which makes them understand what Layer 5 as an open source or as a company offers. And just like, I feel like we could have like a very minimalistic animated design showing what Layer 5 does or what Meshery does. Um, that could be something cool, I feel. Um, when we consider a responsive design, what are the things that can be made better? So when it's a mobile design, if someone's looking from their mobile, there's very little possibility that they want to go ahead and start with adding Istios to their VM or their local machine or something. They just want to know exactly what Layer 5 does and how they can use it, I feel. Also, how they can be open source contributors. Um, Also, what about the navigation bar? Because I feel like if we have way too many things on the navigation bar, that could be complex. B, it could lead people to get confused about where to go. So is there a better way of um, navigating through these sections? Because when I did like a site analysis, I found like there's a lot of different redirections to different pages. So, maybe we could add breadcrumbs from Material UI to show the user where they actually are. So this was just a very brief analysis of our current website, and I feel like we can all speak about all these points and maybe add some more suggestions to what can be made better on the new website. And then I did a site migration analysis, and thank you, Lee, for putting it onto another Excel sheet. I think that's great. But yeah, so my initial thought while doing a site analysis was that since we're using React, everything's component based. The whole point is to reuse different components. That's going to make everyone's work easier. So I tried to figure out what each page had on as their content, and what can we make better, or what can we reuse for each component. So we had something like projects which had all the containers, cards, and links. So I think after this, my next step would be to make this explain the current content type better. And then all of us need to work on figuring out a certain component which could be reused for all performance, service mesh, interface, community and stuff. um, I feel like we could do that as well. And yeah, and so tags is only for, you know, SEO and stuff. So this would come in later on. We have the page description, what kind of components can be added. For example, when we have something like performance, it's infographics, text, and images. So, but it's also just, maybe it could just be a pop-up on one page, because you know what I've learned in software engineering is users want a minimalistic thing. They don't want to keep going from one page to another. So what's the best way of showing the information that we have in the shortest time that a user is going to be using our website? So this was just some preliminary research that I did, and I think we can work on improving this and figuring out how to make the website redesign process better. I'm sorry, those were a lot of words. I hope if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me.
I was capturing some notes as you went, all of which are great questions, all of which are like good or accurate comments and good questions to be asking ourselves about. One of them is like really, you know, sort of really refining the size and shape of the site itself,
Okay.
which we can visually look at in a little bit. But the other one is, yeah, like the general sentiment that, well, I think that it's true right now as you would go navigate the site. If now it's not the case that everyone who visits the site has the goal of kind of wrapping their arms around the whole thing and is asking the question, hey, what can I, or, oh, hey, what is Layer5 and what all do they do? Meaning that they're here to fully digest all pages. They're not always doing that. I mean, some people are, because that really is what they're trying to figure out, is like, sometimes it's competitors that are trying to do that. Sometimes it's people that are interested in the space and they just want to know what everything is that you know, this group is doing. And to Ishita's point, it's not all the pages are navigable from the menu here, and that's okay, because you don't want to overload the menu with so much with like every single page that they're in. Between the nav menu and the footer, I think all pages are linked to. It doesn't mean that conceptually, or for sure, there are a number of things that need to be updated and changed. Like for sure, just like Meshery as a project and this site as a collection of what we're doing, they're both factors of having started as nothing and then just like little things built on top of them. Neither of the two of them are a manifestation of a grand design and like on the path to that design, but rather they're both just an iterative thing that's being built up. For this site, what we're saying is, okay, well, that's been good. That served us to a certain point, and now let's go ahead and lay out kind of what a grand design or what a bigger vision looks like, and try to have it organized around that. So hopefully, yeah, some things, like actually it just occurs to me that there might be some things that like we intentionally might say, maybe that doesn't migrate over. One of those is, I think that it is nice that we have the ability to switch languages. We could, so Ishita, like as you were reflecting on kind of process and tooling that people use as they're doing this kind of analysis to figure out what needs to get moved over and what are the current pain points that people are having. Like one of those tools is Google Analytics. Not the best tool, but it'll give you some additional data points as to maybe as to whether or not anyone, how many times people use the language tool, for example. And so let's take a quick note to enable any of you who are interested in cruising through the Google Analytics to, to get you access to that so you can take a look.
I can do that.
Nice. Okay. Whoops.
I had one point to make. What Ishita said about regarding a user, a newer user coming to the site to know what layer 5 is. Actually, that is correct. Means we are missing a page like about us, something like that, which actually refers about what is layer 5 and what layer 5 is doing. Is the about this product and all this stuff. What layer 5? We don't have a page like that. Then is actually it's not there in the navigation menu.
Right.
Wait, this page.
Yeah, you guys are right. It's actually
Yeah,
an initiative.
I think Nikhil makes a lot of sense. I think about us or what we do and something like that should be one of the first pages a user should maybe see, I guess.
Yeah, you guys are right that the about us is intentionally, well, it was intentionally left up to the visitor's imagination. But yeah, as we look to change that there's kind of two sort of about us's, if you will. And one is a very brief one, and it's not entirely obvious, but if you hover over a company here, it's the layer5.io/about directs here, and it's pretty minimal. If you, and it's maybe not necessarily as obvious here, but if you hover over community and you either click on community, or I think if you click on join, yeah, they will both take you to the same /community page. And this one, like it has words that describe part of what we do, but it's a lot of words and it doesn't jump out at you per se. I mean, like joining the community and starting to contribute. Okay, so you have an idea as to the fact that maybe it's an open source, since you might. And then here, there are people that do service mesh things, but yeah, it may not be obvious that like what's being described here is, significantly an invitation and also a description of like this description about the technologies of focus. So anyway, point being, can be a lot better. This is good that it is calling you to engage. It's just that these what we really need for people to do, like if they're really going to join the heart of the community, like it or not, is probably inside Slack. It's like once people get in Slack, they can be engaged, they can be talked to, they can be sent a bunch of different resources. Yes, when people engage on GitHub, that's good. They can be talked to a little bit in a comment. Like it's a lot harder to meaningfully connect. Point is, like, I think, Yoshida, like part of what you're talking through, one of the things that we would do well to do is ask ourselves sort of on each page, what's the behavior that we're trying to drive? Like, what is there a call to action for each, on any of the pages? And it should be purposeful, that like when they go to /community, what would we most like for them to do? we'd like for, in that case, we'd like for them to join Slack. So there probably is, I don't know if it's another column or what, but.
Right. So are you talking about the major like takeaways from that page?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And the thing that we're looking for them to do, like, the thing that we do want for them to, like to your point, take away from the page, but also when they're done taking it away and they've digested the information, do we want for them to just leave the site, or do we want for them to have downloaded,
engage further?
Yeah, downloaded an ebook, or was the point of the page that they would sign up for the newsletter, or was it that they would join the community? Like, I think those will be essentially, like it's all of the above that we would, desire, but different pages will be optimized for different call to actions or different.
Understood. Yeah, will do.
That's a good one too. I think to your point, like having or sort of answering with the end goal first helps drive some of the rest of the. It's not easy to answer the end goal first, but. Okay, good. So in part, some takeaways from, I think the first round of this exercise are, under the current design, it can be somewhat amorphous, that people might have navigated to a page and it may not be entirely obvious that here's where they are. Like they may not know that they're sort of in this section and kind of how to get back. Breadcrumbs might be something to be used on resources, workshops, blogs, like where there are tons of those. And if they apply a filter or something like that, like that's ideally we can have the site better organized such that it's just obvious to them that they are in a certain area of the site. One of the things that we had desired before is that when they're, and I don't think it's doing it right now, and it's not, but if I'm on /community, that there should, we hopefully we can have a visual indicator in the nav bar that does like highlight the fact that they're on that. A little bit different.
I think yeah, we can figure that out, towards the end to see how users find the field and do they feel like it's easy to navigate, and then maybe that's a design concept that we can integrate into our website. But yeah, we can totally do that towards the end.
And then and then just to be on guard about too many nav items. There's a cut, like I think between your comments, Ishita, and Nikhil's, that sort of the question like, hey, what do we do here? Or like, hey, when people just, the lazy visitor, where the visitor with the lazy eye sort of navs to the site, and they just kind of, what do they sort of lazily pick up and see, and what sense do they get of what is going on within this domain? Yeah, there are for the most, like I guess an overarching way to try to state that succinctly is that there are a collection of tools and people that are espousing things about service meshes, that there are projects and tools, blogs and insights, people to engage with, to help you learn and be successful with a service mesh.
Mm-hmm.
There are, when we really look at that more in a more detailed way, some of the things that we can I think it's helpful to look at a couple of other sites for some amount of inspiration or to.
Right. So I did. If you could go, okay, I'm just gonna send you the Kubernetes website on the chat, and yeah, you can just go to the main Kubernetes website. And personally, I feel like Kubernetes was the toughest thing, the toughest concept for me to actually work with. And I really like their, the small icons and the animations that they have, the graphic stuff that shows how, you can scale it, it won't outgrow, it can run anywhere. So just, a few things like these really make a big difference when it comes to understanding what something does. So something as tough as Kubernetes could be explained in maybe a few lines.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just to right. It needs. I mean, there needs to be more marketing, if you will, like
Right.
yeah, which sometimes people interpret as a bad thing, but it's yeah. This also is kind of interesting. Like, hey, to like say, what's the constituent? Like, what's the thing that really makes up the site? This is okay. Other comments about the discussion here from others?
Hello,
Ashita.
I have some vague idea regarding like if we add a virtual tour or something for people who are lazy visiting the website, and to like they can get the maximum of the website because they won't know at what page or at what navigation what they would be finding. So if we can take a separate tab or a separate thing for a virtual tour or something.
And Josh, I'm not sure if this is what you're saying, but the notion that we would have that the site itself would facilitate people touching a service mesh or playing around with the service mesh is very much so in line with what we're striving to do, is help people understand and adopt service meshes. Was that in part what when you said virtual tool, were you thinking about like a learning area?
Yes, like it was written in the document that we are having some live environment for a demo kind of thing. So it would be like directly a person won't be jumping inside to see the demo. So if there could be a 2-3 steps beforehand of the demo part, so it like the demo would be a lead after some uh, uh, what about what demo we are showing, or like what it is about. It is us like it can be integrated as about us and the demo both together.
Gotcha.
I think, Josh, that's an excellent idea. Although I'm a little confused. Are you speaking about, having a video that shows how to navigate through the website, or are you talking about those arrows which you can go next or skip, which show what each component does?
Yeah, not a
Which
video.
one is?
Yes, like the if we think of any framework, then we oftenly see the get started thing. So it would be like 2-3 steps, and no, it is more into the showing of the components and everything. But we can take a slight idea from that thing, like 2-3 steps, and then lead to. And if you wish, like if you have enough idea about that, then yeah, you can skip it, or you can have a little definition type or small animation, anything that can be enabled, and then they can move on to this thing.
Right. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I think that's a good idea. Um, I feel like that could even work for something like Meshery for a user who doesn't know how to add, let's say, the different service meshes on Meshery. I think that could also be a great thing to do. Just have like a interactive tutorial in the beginning.
Yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, and that right, you could take it from being an actual playground where there really is like an instance of Meshery that's running that we're just running Meshery as a service, if you will, in a playground way that visitors can stop in and poke a mesh or poke at a have a guided tour of deploying a sample application, kind of walking through some of the features and functionality. That would be that would be an awesome thing, a fully blown kind of playground that resets itself, or that has some guardrails so that people don't run up the bill, if you will, to something else in the middle, to something like, in part, what Ashita was describing around, small sections that and visual animations that describe what it means to run anywhere. And so like the animation might be that there's AWS and Azure and GCP and your on-prem environment, and that a small, potentially, and I think in part to Josh's point, that a small potentially interactive thing that demonstrates the fact that, like, with a service mesh, you can load balance traffic. Well, if you click on the animation and it shows you that traffic, what does it mean to load balance traffic? Well, traffic comes in this way, gets split, hits a node, gets split out across them, like some things that are both a way of maybe achieving a few things, explaining the features and function. If you take something like Meshery, it sort of explains the functionality of Meshery, does so visually, like Ishita was saying, but also does so a bit interactively so that people can enjoy the site and learn something at the same time. Those are good. Yeah, those reasons are in part why we have an internship sitting out there for folks that are really focused on like CSS animation or that type of a design. Because yeah, there's some sites that where I've been sending around examples to other people. I don't have one off the top of my head, but that they'll have like full length CSS movies, if you will. Just they're really helpful. Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
I had some doubt, clarification on what do we want people to see when they land, because I'm getting a hint that you want to tell them what service mesh is, and somewhere in between what we are making, like Meshery or SMIS or products. So what I was thinking is what you were talking about, describing how service meshes work. We could have an entire separate page like learn service mesh or learn more or something like that, because I don't know, I'm getting a mixed feeling of what we are landing on. If someone is coming on a page, he must know at least something about service meshes, and if he doesn't, then he can be redirected to the page. I don't know, I mean,
it's a little bit, part of the reason that it's confused is it's a little bit of a point in time thing, is that right now, if well, we're recording as well, so this is not that anybody, but it's a bit of a point in time thing where there is, over time, the more that we have to market, or when there actually is potentially product offerings, we'll lean into and shift toward talking about those most prominently and saying, here's a product, or here's a solution that we help address and solve. Since we don't have those robustly today, it would be like, you can still explain the projects and the solutions that they're providing for folks. Like, it's still a little bit of that. You can still kind of do that. We don't do it very well. We just say, here's a project and a button. so to Ishita's point, like we can say, hey, here's the 4 things that Meshery does, and it gives it a little bit better. And the mesh, yeah. You're right, Drew, that ultimately, like, we do want to have a lot of, like, learn.layer5.io is probably like a whole subdomain dedicated to interactive labs, to like a good place to kind of get a sense of what we would look to do is if you go to learn.hashicorp.com, they say, hey, well, we've got these different projects that, they're open source projects and products both. If you click on one, like, okay, this is where you get started. Like, hey, it's a bunch of learning in sequence, and you go through. I don't think that they have any. These are videos. I don't think that they have any interactive labs. It doesn't matter. We can, but you step through a sequence of learning this stuff, and this is awesome. This is the type of thing that Shruti and a few of us have talked about in the past. There is a lot of learning aspect to it. You're right that people, the keywords and the inbound links and the things that people are searching for, people will be, for a really long time, there will be people still like typing into their browser, what is a service mesh? Like, or there will be the majority of people coming will be like, they're still learning. There will be some people who have adopted and they're saying, that they're asking a specific question about how to configure their mesh to do something based on their environment. And we do want to have a bunch of blog posts, potentially a forum that hit on those phrases and on those keywords. So I guess I said a lot of words to say, part of the reason that that's confused is because we're only so far in our journey. I don't think it's something that or I don't know if we'll get it entirely figured out on this call. Probably the thing that I would say that we would be successful in achieving and makes a ton of sense is just, is a bit of what Ishita was saying about, here's some nice visuals, hopefully they're animated, that say, this is what we're talking to you about. Like when we say, no doubt, no one in the world, other than like, 12 people or something, know what the heck performance is just a generic word. What do you mean performance? And okay, great. This is a more concise statement than what we'd had in the past. Okay, but like a visual animation or a slight example or something, like these are excellent resources. I think, yeah, this is why we're redoing the whole site. So yeah, we'll have to do some designs. And I think most of you, I haven't heard someone say something that didn't make sense. I mean, so of the next thing to talk about, some of the mechanics by which we can achieve some of the things that we're looking to do. Tanuj, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So these are the various plugins we think we will need. I am still confused as to why we are using both strappy and markdown.
Yep, I think that it may be, yeah, you're, also answer that really quick, and that's that I don't know that it is not critically necessary. Like, hey, you can build out the site with just Gatsby and just Markdown. The notion that we might end up using strappy is really for when we are inviting all of us, so we're not the best examples, but all of us and other users that join Slack, or I think Shruti and I were talking about, there's a user, he's a nice guy, Sudeep Batra. He's a user that's joined our Slack. He has written a blog post that talks about some of the things that he's learned about Istio. And in his blog post, he calls out Layer5 in the first paragraph saying, you know, I've been using these resources and engaging with this community. And he posted it on his personal medium.com blog. Beautiful. Hey, also, he would like it if we helped elevate his content, and he might like to publish that on our site. Well, even though he's a cloud architect, he isn't necessarily really good with, he's not very good with Git at all. So the point is that Strappy is potentially there for those that need a content management system, like a WordPress style web app to sign into and create a blog post using. And if we could, so that we can assign sort of the appropriate levels of permissions for folks so that people can do like a quick preview of what they think their blog post is going to look like. That's as far as I've digested Strappy. At some point we'll probably bring in a few other interns that aren't necessarily technically capable, and they may be helping populate the site with content. And so that's probably where Strappy would come in as well. But no, please continue. So just any, you know, I guess if everybody should take a look at these, get more familiar with Gatsby. I think right now it doesn't hurt to go plug all these in. I think we've agreed that, hey, these are some additional ones that we should just go add because they're going to be useful. These are some other ones that's like, well, these are likely going to be things that we're going to need to use. The CSS ones. This sitemap is a good one. Like, hey, Ishita, just like on the topic of this sitemap as a plugin, this plugin here, I'm assuming it should be generating a quote sitemap, because that's a specific thing. And I'm sure you guys know this already, but there's a Jekyll plugin, a Jekyll gem or a Jekyll plugin that's, if you go to layer5.io/sitemap.xml, this is useful for web crawlers to come over and digest your site. And so having a plugin as a sitemap is the right thing to do because it helps with your SEO. And so having a plugin like that makes sense. But Ishita, this might be another way of sort of looking at the site, depending upon how far your analysis goes.
Yep, I did that. Yeah,
Oh.
That was a good way of doing it. I figured out, I just Googled some stuff, and I think I did land up on a sitemap generator. I didn't know that it already existed. Where is this? Where could I find this?
Yeah, it's /sitemap.xml.
Yeah, I wish I knew that because I had to do that. But yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah. There are a couple of free tools out there that will let you take this URL, that it'll read the XML and try to visually diagram it for you, like create the layout. I tried a couple of really quick, but they weren't getting the job done. They were either limiting it to like 50 links or anyway, I only used one really quickly, and then instead, and maybe this is a good transition into the next topic. Instead, I just laid it out. Whoops. I was going to use Google Draw and thought, well, it was going to be more of a pain. And that this would be easier, this draw.io. So all of you that have access to our drive, you should have access to draw.io as well as a free thing. That turns out like draw.io wasn't that much, was just about as painful as I think Google Draw was going to be. doesn't matter. We can export this and stuff, but maybe we'll let this soak in for a second. Just because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 top level landing pages, if you will, 9 top level, like, doesn't necessarily mean that all of them need to be exposed, that we would have 9 menu items. I think we would all agree that like 9 top level menu items is that's probably overdoing it. Like ideally we're to 5 or less, maybe 6, but 4 would be nice. And so some of these things, like, and that's in part speaks to why it is that today, how many do we have? We've got the call to action. It's just a button to take you to go run Meshery. But then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 top level navs. And so some things like contact us aren't even, some of these things, like I was saying before, they're intentionally not, you can't nav to every area per se from here, that some of these things you have to go down, like this brand is an example. The only way you're going to find that link is off of the footer, not from up here. So as you guys take a look at this and think about that, or be aware that we can have multiple versions of this, but at least when I was thinking of this and laying it out, I wasn't necessarily thinking, okay, well, so since this is a top level thing, it has to be exposed on the menu. Maybe that is how we need to redraw this to say, well, no, look, this should be reflective of the menu itself. And so if that was the case, this landscape would go under, it would be another gray item under projects, because it's kind of a, that doesn't mean that, like, if it gets put under there, that can be fine. We would, there's some short, these little guys right here. I was intending for these to mean that the green was, this dark green was top level, was available as a / layer5.io / partners / open source / learn / that some of the second tier links would also, while like conceptually they're categorized like books, they're categorized under learn. And as we lay out the site, like, books should be exposed in terms of like the learn area. That doesn't mean that there can't be a convenience redirect or convenience link that's a layer5.io / books. You can still like directly drop in, a layer deep into the site from there, but when you do, yeah, you'd probably be dropping into the learn area. So that was a little bit of the thinking about how this is getting laid out. Comments. Hopefully all of you should have access. Play with it. Do you create a copy of it and do a different one? Just like I think the thing that Ashita was more or less saying earlier is, thank goodness Ashita went through and did some semblance of a site analysis and started asking questions and laying out all the links. The same thing here, that this is out here for everyone to beat up. Or this is a good straw man and a starting point. So think about this. For my part, I think the visual layout can really helps with trying to organize all this stuff. I'm a little bit torn. I think like there's a bunch of arguments to be made about stuff like, well, events really are about community. Okay, so that makes some sense. But like, isn't events more of a top level thing? And I don't know, or it could go either way. You know, is contact really a top level? No, not really. I mean, yeah, in some respects, this is another example of like on Layer5 IO today, there isn't a contact us, like right at the, now in the footer though, it doesn't say us, but there is a contact. And on that page, it basically it doesn't take you you don't really go anywhere from here. You can go over to the partners page. You can click to email us, or you can go over to the careers page. Anyway. So I'm waiting for someone to jump all over it. So anyway, that's there. Go express opinion. So we talked about Tanuja's, Dhruv, do you want to chat about what you got done with Strappy?
Well, I just deployed it on free tier of Amazon Web Service. Yeah. P2.
I guess
I didn't look much into it. I didn't got any time, but yeah, I made a user and that was that. We can add plugins and more if you want.
Yeah, I guess in part to help answer Tanuja's question is like, one of the things that I don't have necessarily, Layer5, I don't have necessarily all the answers for Strappy, but yeah, I guess the thing maybe, Dhruv, next time we meet, like, it would be nice to understand, like, hey, when you set up Strappy, you need to identify your data models, and
yeah,
what are those and what do those mean? Does that mean like I assume it's kind of like a Jekyll collection, or it's kind of like you'd say, well, there's a data model for books because that's a noun. It's kind of like designing a database. Like, hey, that books are a noun. We're going to have multiple books. Workshops, that's another data model. Like, we're going to have multiple of or events. That's a data model. There are different types of events. There's webinars, there's meetups, but yeah, I guess like,
yeah. I was actually playing with it. You can, suppose you create a blog, so there will be a collection of suppose there is a blog and there can be a multiple blog inside that, and if it is easily connected to Gatsby using a plugin, and you can send queries and you can get all the blogs.
I'm trying to log in. I have the wrong.
Wait, let me check.
I might have the wrong. Anyway, maybe for next week, if we could, Dhruv, maybe volunteer you or Tanuj, I mean, I guess between the two of you, I go to learn Strappy and come back and
yeah, sure.
teach us.
It should work.
Maybe I'm using the wrong link.
Sandbox@Layer5, right?
Yeah. So Ishita, actually, in some respects, I guess these links, I think the links that we have here as things to take inspiration from, I think this was more overall design, but a little less about what you were hitting on before. It was like, hey, what do we do here? Like, and how do you explain that quickly to people, like, get it when they drop onto the site? And these probably aren't good examples of that. They're good examples of like sexy design. But it might be one of those things that for next week, there
Right,
are,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I can go over. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You can try now. I just logged out from I guess I was logged in. That's why.
Oh, weird. Okay.
It's my guess.
Sure. But Ishita, yeah, it sounds like you were going to say you might bring some examples of sites that.
Yeah, so just like really technical heavy websites which have done a good job with making it look less complex. I think those are things that I'm going to look for and show you guys next week, I guess.
Nice. I'll in the meantime, I'll try to pop over a few ideas your way, Ishita, as you're trying to compile that list.
Sure. Yeah, works. Thank you.
Uh,
Hey, you put the password wrong. The IO was not there.
Oh.
Remove the IO from the password itself.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Yeah. Nice, cool. Okay, great. Now that I'm in, I can. I'll wait. Yeah, let me go update that. All right. What else did we miss? Like we should really try to talk about some concrete next steps for just some of the advancements on Gatsby itself, like plugging in, turning on the plugins, like showing that ingesting in Markdown can work. Maybe the mechanics by which, a little bit of instruction for everyone here about how it gets built, or like, I know that there's whole sets of topics on creating custom components, which we're probably not quite ready for yet. And because part of that will come from the analysis that Ishita will be doing and kind of how it is that we want to explain the site. But so that's a question then. What do we think we can do with Gatsby by next time that we meet?
We can
before I had one thing to say. For the setting up instructions that we have on the GitHub repo of the Layer 5 NG site, means the Layer 5 NG repo on the GitHub page. The instruction is to is for the dependencies Gatsby CLI and Gatsby Dev CLI. The links that are provided, that the link is for the contribution to Gatsby itself, and not for setting up Gatsby website, means a project on the your local environment. So means only npm install global means global install Gatsby CLI will do. I don't think we would need a Gatsby dev CLI. Means these dependencies are mentioned for the contribution to the Gatsby JS project itself.
Oh, yeah, I wonder, I guess if Gatsby, I think, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times when you go to build the Layer 5 NG site, I think a lot of times you'll end up using the CLI Gatsby develop so that you run a local web server. And I don't know if Gatsby dev CLI is required for that or not.
Yeah, Gatsby develop will work from Gatsby CLI itself.
Oh, okay.
That's not an issue.
Got it.
Yeah. I was suspicious when we saw npm and yarn both, so I gone through the link and it directed me to the contributors page of Gatsby.js. So then I again went to the docs to find what we need to install a Gatsby, set up a Gatsby site. So it says means only a Gatsby CLI will work. We don't need a dev CLI. npm install global Gatsby CLI will work. We can remove that yarn.
Okay, nice. All right. So then as we go to wrap up the meeting, Nikhil, is that something you might want to try your hand at, is revising the contributors guide?
Which one?
Is like revising the instructions for contributing or basically revising these.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Of course, I will make it up.
And then
and I guess we can also set up a change log if you want, since
Shivai, I couldn't hear you. Say it again.
I'm saying that we can also set up a changelog.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Means currently we aren't ready for that, but if means the site is not ready, we can incorporate that once we are ready with the next with the new site. But currently also, if we want, we can in case incorporate that a change login.
All right. So for next time, Dhruv, you'll teach us about Strappy.
Yeah, cool.
Nikhil, you'll get in, build the site, revise the contributors' instructions. Mukul isn't here with us, but I think he has an open PR out there for building the site, which Nikhil, I think as you look at revising the contributor guide, maybe you'll take a look at that open PR for how it's built.
Yeah, sure.
Tanuj, you pulled out all the CSS that was embedded inline in the blogs, helping prepare for migration. So Tanuj, maybe if you would it make sense if you took the Markdown plugin and the file system plugin, I think, if you enabled those and maybe next week are able to demonstrate how it is that you're able to ingest Markdown, like a blog post, and display that in the existing blog page.
Okay. So question about that. Do we need MDX also for that? MDX allows the use of React components or just simple Markdown?
I'm not sure. Say it again. You said MDX?
Yeah, MDX allows a person to use JSX within Markdown.
Oh.
Do we need that or simple Markdown?
It is the case that I've had a hard time getting all of the styling necessary with just Markdown, and have occasionally interwoven Markdown and HTML or Markdown and CSS together. Is that what you're saying?
No, means I'm talking uh, like this plugin allows only to parse Markdown files. So there is another plugin which allows you to for transforming MDX formats, which is used to use which is used to use React components along with Markdown, so they can be used together. Something like that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm not entirely sure just yet. When you're saying MDX, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't even know what that. Yeah. What is that?
I just saw in some website they were using it. They use it mostly with Storybook to create documentation along with components.
Okay. Oh, I see. I don't know. So nice. So for next time, you'll demonstrate ingesting Markdown as a blog post in the new site. Josh, anything that you're thinking of?
Currently, I saw the repo and build the website till whatever it has been. Like I saw the template app and so is it anything I can do for the next week? Is like if you have something related to learning Gatsby or finding some new like some feature that we're going to use along.
Yeah. I've been a little bit frustrated that there's a learning Gatsby resource that I have access to that I can't figure out a way to share, it would behoove us to maybe that's an action item for me to go look at, like if there's any learning Gatsby resources to share. One thing I think that Josh, you might have some success with is when you go look at, if you go take a component in Gatsby and look at how to restyle that component and put in some of the existing layer 5 visuals. Hit me in a little bit. I'll show you an example of a component that I copied and reworked to include our content. Or if you don't get me, Tanuj, you know the one I'm talking about, right? The
projects.
yeah, and I just, it was a copy and paste thing that I reformatted. That okay. So then, and Ashita, we talked a little bit about what you might do in terms of identifying some other some sites that articulate well, that might technical marketing of
Yeah.
Nice. I know Shivai and Shriti are on the call as well. Not everyone has to leave with action items per se, but were there things that either of the two of you were thinking about in this regard? Mega menus, Shivai, I think.
Hello.
Yep, there you are.
Yeah, so I've created the React component for the mega menu. So should I just create a pull request for that, or
Yeah,
what should?
Yeah, or are you able? Is that something that you can demo?
Sure. I mean, I have to first integrate that with the local site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you want, I can demo it on the Wednesday's mystery development meeting if it's relevant, or how should I?
Yeah, please. I mean, it's relevant. I mean, and the demo doesn't have to take long. I mean.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Nice. Okay, we're over time. I know we get overtime on this call because we still don't know quite what we're doing.
One more question: do I shift the Layer5 site now or after merging of the PRs?
Now, or I wouldn't, like, those PRs can be merged in the other area as well. Like, I think maybe Tanuj, you can try just taking a clone or a copy of the NG site, moving it into the Layer5 repo, pushing it in. I mean, you don't have to disrupt what's going on there. You can just do an early copy, move it over, see if it builds on the new, on the same repo. And if, yeah, it would be nice. Anything that we're missing? So I think I had an action item to make sure we get at least Ashita access to Google Analytics, right? Okay. One thing that we would hopefully do is maybe we'll reformat a little bit of what we're doing here. Like we're using this design doc for a little bit of like action item tracking and things, and it's sort of a mess.
Either we can have like a separate site, I mean a separate doc for, because now since we're having these regular calls, right? I mean, now like a weekly affair. So yeah, I mean having it as a like meeting minutes would be better.
I agree. Also, maybe agree. Like, good. Anything else? soon we'll be in a mode where we're regularly demoing the site itself to ourselves. It'll be good. Okay. Josh, very nice to have you on this call. Nikhil, like, you know, finally, thanks for like showing up and doing something. It's good.
No issues.
All right. Thanks all. We'll catch you in Slack. Catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.